Hello and welcome to our next lesson in this topic on transporting animals. In previous lessons, we've looked at the different types of circulatory system that can be found in animals, and we've looked at the structure of the blood. In today's lesson, entitled Blood Vessels, so you need to write that in your notes or wherever you're taking your notes, you should be able to recall the different types of blood vessels used in the human circulatory system. You should be able to explain how each type of blood vessel is adapted to its role within the circulatory system, and you should be able to compare the distribution of tissues in the walls of each blood vessel. So, in mammals, the heart pumps blood around the body in blood vessels. This is known as a closed circulatory system. So we can put in red because it's important. In a closed circulatory system, blood is pumped from the heart around the body in blood vessels. Around the body in blood vessels. Now this includes in you. You are a mammal. I am a mammal. My cats are mammals. Your dogs and horses are mammals. And we all have the same circulatory system. We all have a double closed circulatory system. So I am going to put up here in brackets, just next to it, saying e.g. in mammals. And mammals is what we're going to focus on today. Okay, we're going to focus on blood vessels in mammals. Now there are three types of blood vessel in mammals that you need to know about. Okay, there are some others, but there are some main ones. So we can say that there are three main. In fact, I'm trying to get out of the habit of using numbers in my writing. There are three main blood vessels in mammals. We've got the arteries, we've got the capillaries, and we've got the veins. So we've got arteries, veins, and capillaries. Now there are some other vessels that connect these together. So there are what are known as arterioles, which we'll use as a keyword. Arterioles. Now if something ends in oles in biology, it usually means it's something smaller than. So if you think of the bronchioles are smaller than the bronchus. Okay? Arterioles are blood vessels that connect blood vessels that connect arteries to capillary beds. Okay? On the other hand, we've got what are known as venules, which connect capillary beds to veins. So, blood vessels that connect capillary beds to veins. Now, both arterioles and venules can be constricted or dilated, okay? So your body has the ability to constrict arterioles if they don't want blood to flow through them, or dilate them if they do. The same for venules, okay? So I'm going to put in red that arterioles and venules can be constricted or dilated to manage the amount of blood flowing through capillary beds. Flowing through capillary beds or capillaries. Okay? So if we were thinking of this as a system, you would have your heart. That's not anatomically correct, but it looks like a heart, so I'm even going to colour it in. That's how much I like you lot. Okay? That's your heart. Coming from the heart, you have arteries. So arteries take blood out. Arteries then connect to arterioles, which connect the arteries to capillary beds. So a capillary bed is where one artery will feed into millions and millions and millions of capillaries, which we will talk about later. So we've got our capillaries. We're then connecting to venules, which then connect to the veins, which take blood back to the heart. Okay? So, in a closed circulatory system, blood is pumped from the heart around the body in blood vessels, such as in mammals. There are three main blood vessels in mammals: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arterioles are blood vessels that connect arteries to capillary beds, whilst venules are blood vessels that connect capillary beds to veins. Arterioles and venules have the ability to be constricted or dilated, and therefore it controls the amount of blood flowing through the capillary beds. We've then drawn a diagram down here that shows that blood moves from the heart through arteries. It then goes through arterioles into capillary beds, into venules, into veins, back to the heart. Now, before we move on, there is one key word that I want to define because we're going to be using it quite a lot. And the key word is lumen, L-U-M-E-N. Now, the lumen is the inside space of a tubular structure. So, the inside space of a tubular structure. So essentially it's the hole in the middle of a tube, okay? So if you think of a straw or a hose pipe or something of that nature, the hole in the middle is the lumen. So we can put underneath there, and I'm trying to think of a colour we haven't really used so it looks nice and colourful, because you know me, I like colour. We can say there that it is the hole in the middle of a tube. So if this is our blood vessel, the lumen would be the part in the middle. So that would be the lumen. Okay? Right then. So let's start looking at these arteries, veins and capillaries and what they are made of. You're in for a real treat today, purely because I haven't taken any images from the internet. I've hand-drawn everything for this video and then scanned it and put it in. So we can put the first subheading, arteries. Arteries. And we can underline it. And I'm going to put in my amazing picture of an artery from the PowerPoint. Okay? In fact, no, I'm going to save it for now because I want to label it later. So, arteries carry blood from the heart to the capillaries. Okay? So, I'm going to put it in red because it's important that arteries carry blood away from the heart to capillary beds. Okay? So they carry blood away from the heart to capillary beds. Now they are very thick-walled, they are very muscular, and they have elastic tissue to cope with the high pressure caused from heartbeat. So this high hydrostatic pressure. Okay? So I'm also going to put in red that blood pumped away from the heart in arteries is under high pressure. Now this is important to remember. Whenever we're talking about the adaptations of the heart, of the arteries, you need to remember that the blood is under high pressure. Okay? So this will always help you to think of the adaptation. So the blood is pumped in arteries under high pressure. Okay? All adaptations of the arteries, I keep saying the heart, apologies. All the adaptations of the arteries allow it to withstand this pressure. So I'm going to put all adaptations of the arteries allow them to withstand high pressure. So the arteries pump blood away from the heart under high pressure, and all of the adaptations that the arteries have allow them to withstand this high pressure. Okay? Now, remember, the pressure caused from the heart is due to this hydrostatic pressure. Oncotic pressure is when we move into the veins. So, hydrostatic pressure is caused by heartbeats. Okay, now we can use my amazing diagram. So this diagram shows the structure of an artery. Okay, this is the general structure. If we were to do a cross section of a artery, this is what it would look like. Now on the inside, we'll work from the inside out. We've got the lumen, which I'm going to put in green because we've already defined it. So we've got our lumen on the inside, most inside part of the heart. Next to the lumen in orange, we've got what's known as the folded endothelium. So we've got the folded endothelium. Now, it's important that the endothelium is folded because when the blood vessel is under high pressure and it expands, the folds allow the endothelium to stretch. If they were already under high tension and they weren't folded, they would simply rip. After the folded endothelium, we've got a thick muscle layer. Thick muscle layer, which is shown in pink on my diagram. And then after the thick muscle layer, we've got elastic tissue in the wall. So we've got elastic tissue in the wall. Okay. Now, as I said, the folded endothelium allows the artery to expand without the endothelium ripping. So we can say that the endothelium is highly folded so that it doesn't rip when the artery expands under pressure. Okay? So when this artery expands under high pressure as blood flows through the lumen, the endothelium simply smooths out. The folds unfolds, preventing it from ripping. When it then relaxes, it goes back to being highly folded. Now, if I was to ask you in lesson why the artery has a thick muscle layer and it has elastic tissue in the wall, a lot of you would probably tell me that it has muscle and elastic tissue to contract or to coil in on the blood. Now, this is a common misconception, okay? The artery stretches to cope with high pressure. It does not contract. Your arteries do not contract like a muscle would. The muscle and the elastic layer just allow it to withstand stretching under high pressure. So we can say, and I'm going to put it in red because it's a common misconception, that an artery stretches to cope with high pressure and then recoils under low pressure. and then recoils under low pressure. Okay? It does not contract. So I'm going to put in capitals. That's not how you spell it. It does not contract oh my god, contract or recoil or relax even. I can't even do capitals. Okay, so the muscle and the elastic tissue just allow the artery to stretch under pressure. It doesn't allow them to contract. The artery does not contract, okay? So arteries carry blood away from the heart towards or to capillary beds. Blood is pumped away from the heart in arteries under high pressure. All of the adaptations that the artery has allows it to withstand this high pressure. The pressure is caused by hydrostatic, so it's this heartbeat that's pushing the blood through. The endothelium of an artery is highly folded so that when it expands due to pressure of blood flowing through to lumen, it doesn't rip, the folds simply unfold, whilst the muscle and elastic tissue allow the heart to expand when blood flows through the lumen. It does not contract or relax. The muscle does not contract. Okay, I know that's very counterintuitive because we've taught you that muscles always contract, but in this case, it does not. So, let's have a think about veins. Can't remember which colour I used. Was it this one? Oh, we don't want to do that, although it's beautiful. Was it? I think it was this one. Yeah. So now we need to talk about veins. Now, veins take blood back to the heart under low pressure. So, veins take blood from capillary beds back to the heart under low pressure. Remember, the hydrostatic pressure from the heart contracting is lost when the blood flows into the capillary bed. Okay? So we can say, in fact, yeah, we'll write it underneath. Hydrostatic pressure is lost as blood moves into the capillary bed. So this pressure is lost. Now, all of the adaptations that the veins have allow it to take blood back to the heart under low pressure. Okay? So, adaptations of veins allow them to take blood back to the heart under low pressure. Under low pressure. Okay? Now, veins have a much wider lumen than arteries. Okay? arteries, we should have perhaps mentioned in the previous slide, that arteries have a much smaller lumen. Okay? So we can say that veins have a much wider lumen than arteries, and do not have much muscle or elastic tissue, and do not have much muscle / elastic tissue. Okay, now this is what the moment you've all been waiting for. My diagram of a vein looks like this. Okay, so already the lumen is huge compared to the artery. Remember, the artery had this highly folded endothelium which gave it a small lumen. It might be worth writing in your notes for the part on arteries that arteries have a small lumen to maintain high pressure. Okay? Veins also have valves which prevent the backflow of blood. So we can put in red over here that veins have valves in them that prevent the backflow of blood. So let's label up our diagram. So this time I'm going to put in the middle that it has a large lumen. Okay? It has a very large lumen. Next to the lumen, and I can't remember what colour we used, I think it was this one, it's got a endothelium. It's got an endothelium, which is this layer here next to the lumen. After the lumen, we've got a thin muscle wall, very, very thin. So a thin muscle wall. And then after the muscle wall, we've got what we just call the wall of the vein, the outer wall. So we've got the outer wall. Now we've already said that veins have this large lumen which reduce friction as blood flows through it, and they have valves which prevent blood from backflowing. So I'm also going to write down, because what I've just said, that the large lumen prevents friction from reducing blood flow. From reducing blood flow. Okay, so the large lumen prevents friction. They have valves which prevent the backflow of blood, and blood flow through the veins is helped by muscles contracting on them. So as blood moves up your leg from your foot through your veins, muscles in your leg contract on the veins, pushing blood through them, much like if you have a tip top or a frube, yeah, or toothpaste. You push on the bottom of the toothpaste and move the blood, not the blood, hopefully you're not doing blood with your toothpaste, you push on the toothpaste tube from the bottom up to push the toothpaste up and out of the end of the tube of toothpaste. Now this is very similar in veins. So we can say that blood flow in veins is helped by surrounding muscles contracting on them. Okay? Now, all veins tend to carry deoxygenated blood, except for the pulmonary veins, which carry blood from the lungs back to the heart. So, just as a sort of an easy thing to remember, most veins carry deoxygenated blood, except the pulmonary veins, which carry blood from the lungs to the heart. So the veins take blood from capillary beds back to the heart under low pressure. Their adaptations allow them to overcome the fact that blood is in low pressure within them. The hydrostatic pressure that is found in the arteries is lost in the capillary beds, and therefore the blood in the veins are under low pressure. Veins have a much wider lumen than arteries and do not have much muscle or elastic tissue. The veins have valves in them that prevent the backflow of blood. The large lumen prevents friction from reducing blood flow, and the blood flow in veins is helped by surrounding muscles contracting on them. Most veins carry deoxygenated blood, except the pulmonary veins, which carry blood from the lungs to the heart. Now, the cross-section of the vein shows that we've got this large lumen, we've got an endothelium, a thin muscle wall, and an outer wall. I do apologise, I need to have a drink. I know it's not great down the mic, but there's not a lot I can do. My mouth's gone very, very dry. So our final one that we need to talk about today is capillaries. Okay. Now, capillaries are the smallest of the blood vessels, and they are where substances are exchanged between the blood and the cells of the body. So capillaries are the smallest of the blood vessels and are where substances are exchanged between the blood and the cells of the body. Now, this is given a very special name. This is known as metabolic exchange. So metabolic exchange, is where when substances are exchanged between the blood and the cells of the body. Between the blood and cells of the body. Now, capillaries are not found as single blood vessels. They are found as what are known as capillary beds. Now, capillary beds are networks of capillaries that go through tissues, and they increase the surface area for exchange. So a capillary bed is another key word. Capillary bed is a network of capillaries that are found throughout tissues to increase surface area for metabolic exchange. Okay? So they increase the surface area for metabolic exchange. You don't find a single capillary. They're split up into millions of capillaries known as a capillary bed. So I am going to put underneath there that this can be millions of capillaries. Now, if we think of a single capillary, it would look like this. Okay? That is what a capillary would look like. Much more simpler than the other ones we've drawn. Now, all they consist of is an endothelium that is one cell thick. So a one cell thick endothelium. Okay? So they have an endothelium that is one cell thick. They also have a lumen which will only allow one red blood cell through at a time. So it has a very small lumen and why this is important is because it only allows one red blood cell or one erythrocyte through at a time. So we can say that the endothelium of a capillary is only one cell thick to reduce diffusion distance in metabolic exchange. Okay. At the same time, we can say that the lumen is so small, only one red blood cell is allowed to move through at a time, which increases the rate of exchange in metabolic exchange. So we can say only one erythrocyte can fit in the lumen of a capillary at a time, which increases metabolic exchange. So in terms of the adaptations of a capillary, it is only one cell thick, which decreases the diffusion distance in metabolic exchange. It only allows one erythrocyte through at a time, which increases the rate of metabolic exchange, and also the fact that we've got lots of capillary beds, so there's many millions, in fact, millions of capillaries to any one artery, which increases the surface area for metabolic exchange. So, you should now be able to tell me the different types of blood vessel used in the human circulatory system. You should be able to explain how each type of blood vessel is adapted to its role within the circulatory system, and you should be able to compare the distribution of tissues in the walls of each blood vessel. If you have any questions at all about this lesson, please do not hesitate to contact me, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. If not, I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.